Hey guys, thank you for tuning back into my channel. I'm so happy to be recording again and being right back with you guys. And if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. I am trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. That is a huge goal, but I think I can do it with the help of God and with you guys. But I'm going to be doing my makeup today and also talking about my faith, talking about a lot of things in my walk with God, and maybe some other things, we'll see. The first thing that I'm going to do is moisturize my face. I use this moisturizer and I use another moisturizer, and then I'm going to use the Huda Beauty foundation. I feel like your foundation always looks good when your canvas, which is your face, is nicely moisturized. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the fact that, like, this Sunday as I was doing my makeup, I was just spending time with God. And sometimes when I do my makeup, I like to spend time with God that way. Sometimes I'll even ask him like what colors he thinks I should use, and I put on worship music and I'll just talk to him, and I always find it so relaxing, and it's usually just such a blessing to be able to talk to the Lord. Some of the things that I've been learning in this season as I walk is that the presence of God is just so needed, and we always need to go there. Sometimes we allow the things of life to take us away from his presence, and I remember my bishop always used to say that in the presence of God is where life is. So like all life literally is found in the presence of God. And so anytime we who live by the presence of God and by the breath of God, anytime we find ourselves not getting into that present, spiritually we begin to die. I woke up one morning last week and I was just feeling like what I like to call bleh. And this bleh feeling often feels discouraging, and it just feels like sometimes I feel useless, but I realize that sometimes that is just the enemy's voice. It's important to just get into his presence and find my way there, because that's where I feel the most fulfilled. That's where I get revived and everything. Another thing that I've been learning is that God does speak, and he does want to speak to his children. And if we want to hear from him, then we have to actively be seeking that place with him. And it is so rewarding when you've been seeking God and you've just been, showing up to time with him, showing up to your dates with him, and if you don't ask him, then you won't have. So like whatever you're asking God for, if you're wanting him to speak, if you're wanting him to show up in some areas of your life, don't give up on asking. And so one of the things that I've just been really eager in this season is I really want to know what God is saying. And there were a couple things that I was asking God about, and he very well answers. But at the same time, like, the advice that I would give to you guys as well is like, you just have to be in a place where your spirit is going to be able to recognize God's voice. That scripture that says, my sheep hear my voice. And so we as his sheep have to become familiar with him. And so yeah, that's kind of the season that I am in right now. Much as I love makeup, we live in a society where people really like judge you by the way that you look, and especially as women, like we feel like we have to get done up and do all of these things in order to look beautiful. And I don't think there's anything wrong with looking beautiful. I don't think there's anything wrong with being done up. I think that if that's your main focus, is to look good, and if your main focus of your life is to look good and to do things so that people can find you attractive, if that's your main focus, especially as a Christian woman, that's a problem. And I don't think as Christian women that we should follow people that only care about those things, like looking good, having the latest outfits, having the latest hair, because there is something that matters more. And our relationship with God, our devotion to God is what matters the most. We should be more focused on our character as women, and we should be asking God and asking, like, Lord, what can I work on? I think that our character, more than anything, matters more than what we wear. You know, one thing that my husband asked me is, he's like, do you remember what your great-grandmother looked like? And I was like, no. Do you remember what and he said, do you remember what your great-great-great-great-great-grandmother looked like? And I was like, no, I don't. And he was like, but today, more than what she looked like, you know that there were things that were possibly done that affect you today. And so some of us grow up with alcoholism, we grow up with anger, we grow up with, maybe we were promiscuous, and it's like, that's because someone in our bloodline didn't deal with those things, they didn't tackle those things. And so what I challenge myself and what I challenge other women to do is to focus more on God. And so if you're a woman who's chasing after God and you're praying and you're doing what you're supposed to do as a woman of God, it's a good thing, you know. Just because we're in a society that doesn't value those things, it doesn't mean that you're not enough. So just remember that. Yes, so I always feel like lashes add an extra pop. Prior to getting married, I did have fears. I don't really feel like I was that prepared to be a wife, simply because I grew up in a home where it was just my mom, and I did see my dad, I did have a relationship with him, but it was long distance, so mainly my upbringing was just with my mom in the house. So I never really saw like what a wife was supposed to be. So, and marriage was not really something that was on my mind, even in my times of dating. So marriage wasn't really like a topic of discussion, surprisingly. And so now I meet a guy who God is now telling me that I'm supposed to marry him. And the funny thing about that was, like, when God told me that I was going to be Michael's wife, he actually said he was preparing me. So it's just funny how I still had fears about actually being a wife. Basically, I had fears that, like, I wasn't going to be a good keeper of the home. I had fears that I wasn't going to be able to cook to my husband's standards, because he grew up in Africa. He is from Ghana, for those of you guys that do not know. And when I grew up, I didn't really cook. I had no interest when it came to the things of the home. But let me tell you guys how good God is. Anytime I would go in the kitchen to cook, and this is before I got married, and like, as I was seeing that I had those fears, I would bring the Lord into the kitchen with me, like, God, help me with this, help me with that. And I did have fears. I had fears of divorce, and I think those are things that naturally still pop up. I'm somebody that doesn't like conflict, and I knew that getting married, that I was gonna have to deal with conflict. I wasn't really ready for that. I wasn't really ready to deal with those kind of things. So one thing that I'm thankful for is for a husband that is patient with me and graceful. The other day I was like cleaning my house and everything, and I was just thanking God for taking over my my dating life and just bringing my husband to me, because yeah, I was thankful for that, because I know that God knows the future, and he knows the future of my husband, and he knows my future. So if he's placed us together, then that was with the future in mind, so I have no worry, you know. And I think that's the benefits of involving God in your dating relationship. When I talk to people about dating, like, I always want them to know that it is a good thing to involve God in your dating, and I think that that's something that we should always do. This is hard. That's okay, I'm not gonna give up, because basically I feel like why not involve God into your dating? And if you see signs and God's like, yeah, I don't really want you with that person, or I don't really think you should date that person, you should be okay with that, because God sees the future of the people that you want to date. So like, for example, like say you want to date a guy named Bob. God knows Bob's future. Something might happen with Bob 10 years down the road, and God can see that. Maybe Bob is going to get in a car accident, or maybe he's going to win the lottery. And the thing is, God knows the things that we can handle. You know what I mean? So I think it's important to involve him in it, because he sees the future of others. So that's kind of how I look at dating with God, and just really valuing his voice when it comes to dating, because he sees all. Sometimes we want to do things ourselves, and we want to date ourselves without considering what God says, and we should really seek his voice and seek his counsel. If this was more of like a day look, then I would probably not do the eyeliner. But right now we're basically done. You can add some highlight. You can add highlight if you want to make the look a little bit better. Excuse me. So I'm actually going to use an eyeshadow palette as my highlight, because my favorite highlight that I had for like 2 years, it kind of broke, and it's one of my favorites. It's the Anastasia one. So I'm just going to put a little bit highlight, because we want to still look a little natural. So there we are. Whew, boy, this is a really hard video to do. Now I'm going to put some like lip gloss on. Clear lip gloss on, but I'm just gonna put this on because this is all I have. This is a kind of like a fall color. All right, and then normally I would use Fix Plus spray by MAC. But today I'm just going to use this Caudalie spray. I prefer to look a little bit glowy. So guys, here's the finished look. This video was a struggle because I felt like I had to like really rush to do my makeup and talk really fast. But I hope this video was helpful for you guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you guys like this video, share, subscribe, and help me get to 5,000 subscribers. Love you guys. Bye.